I'm putting the shades on, baby. The Florida Gators have announced, or the Florida Gators are expected to hire Ron Roberts to be their new linebackers coach, the Auburn defensive coordinator. Let me get a chop in the chat. We're excited about this one. We're going to talk about it here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another glorious episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, sometimes twice a day. Like today, the Florida Gators are expected to hire Ron Roberts. We'll talk about that today and tomorrow because Locked On Gators is available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Happy Monday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. If you're part of the subtext group, you knew about this earlier today, that it was almost definitely going to happen today. If you're not and you want to be a part of it and get information like that, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGators. Links in the description below. I cannot express how excited I am about this hire. And it's not just, oh, there's a linebacker coach. If you've been listening to this show since basically Dan Mullen got fired and Billy Napier got hired, you would have heard the name Ron Roberts a lot. If you haven't been listening to the show, I am a huge Ron Roberts fan. Not just in terms of as a linebacker coach, but just in terms of what he's done as a defensive coordinator. So much of what you watch in modern football, specifically modern college football, you can attribute to Ron Roberts. He's kind of the guy who introduced creepers. And if you don't know what creepers are, their actual name is replacement blitzes. But it's when you see, I don't know, a normal looking defense, slot defender comes off the edge on a blitz and your jack linebacker drops into coverage. Ron Roberts is like the pioneer of that. Okay. Ron Roberts is one of my favorite coaches on the planet. Again, not just for Florida, just in general. He's one of my favorite coaches on the planet. What he's done scheme wise, who he's had in his coaching tree. You talk about Austin Armstrong, Florida Gators' current defensive coordinator, is part of the Ron Roberts coaching tree. You talk about Patrick Toney, Florida Gators' former defensive coordinator, part of the Ron Roberts coaching tree. Dave Aranda, current Baylor head coach, well regarded as one of the best defensive minds in college football. Guess what coaching tree he's from? Ron Roberts. You look at the Dan Lanning style, the Pete Golding style. You look at the coaching tree, and so much of it is Ron Roberts. Pete Golding is part of the Ron Roberts coaching tree because he was at Delta State under Ron Roberts. Again, I know that for so many people, a linebacker coach is just a linebacker coach. This hire is so much more than that for Florida. And I don't just mean in terms of what title they're giving him. Like, I don't know if they've officially announced the name again, because I just found out that the hiring is happening. Like, it was broken by, I think it was Graham and Matt from 24/7. But that it's expected to happen. We talked about it in the subtext group earlier today. But this is just a massive ad, not just in terms of, again, but not the title. I don't care about him being, executive head coach of the defense. I don't care. That's a thing that those kinds of things are generally what coaches throw on to pay more money. Because he was making, I think, $1.4 million at Auburn, which we'll talk about his departure in a second. But bringing in Ron Roberts is huge for Florida, where you looked at the defense have so many times where it's like, what the hell is happening? In 2023, happened a lot that the defense had quite a few moments of yikes. And a lot of that was attributed to Austin Armstrong's relative inexperience as a defensive coordinator, defensive play caller at the SEC level. Bringing in Ron Roberts gives you, I think he's been coaching for 30 plus years now. And you get that experience in that room. That's the huge part. Adding experience to that coaching staff that on defense especially is very young. Will Harris, very young. Austin Armstrong, very young. Mike Peterson, very young. Gerald Chapman, very young. Now you add Ron Roberts to oversee all of that or oversee all of that. Just be an experienced mind in the room. And you're kind of cooking with gas. Like, I'm ready to tell lies. I'm ready to tell lies with this hire. I think everybody that's watched this show since Billy Napier got hired, Ron Roberts was the guy that I was just like, go get him. Go call him when he was at Baylor at the time. But go call him and say, hey, buddy, you want to run it back? Didn't happen. But Ron Roberts was the guy that I wanted Florida and Billy Napier to bring in 2 years ago as DC. Now you get him as a linebackers coach. And I think this is kind of a match made in heaven because I see the chat going off. Say whatever you want. You know the rules. We'll get to it in the second half of this. And if you're new here, like, subscribe, comment, all that. But I think one of the biggest negatives that people have given Ron Roberts was him not being uber aggressive. So adding that with Austin Armstrong, who is thought of as a very aggressive defensive coordinator, gives you kind of the best of both worlds. And again, for me, this is just, it's huge. It's a massive addition to this team, to this coaching staff, to this defense. Like, I love what Ron Roberts brings to the table. And I think that, again, like, this isn't going to turn Florida into a top 5 defense, but this is going to bring your defense significantly up, especially when you look at all the youth in that room. But you're going to have the guy who made creepers cool. He's going to be here working now. And that's the big thing, because again, it's not just the creepers that he brings up. It's that he is such a good coach, just in general, like a mentor to so many guys. And I get it. Patrick Toney didn't work out in Gainesville. Austin Armstrong didn't have a good year 1 as a defensive coordinator in Gainesville. I fully understand all of that. Like, I'm not saying, oh, disregard every bad thing, but I am saying that this is one of those hires where you look at the things that have gone poorly for Florida on defense, you're addressing those. You're bringing in someone who, by the way, has linebacker coach experience. I know that he was the defensive coordinator at Auburn, and I think he was also working with the defensive line at Auburn, but he was at Baylor, defensive coordinator and inside linebackers coach. And as far as him leaving Auburn, to my understanding, based on the tweets that we've seen from him in the past couple weeks, he seemed like he wasn't a big fan of Hugh Freeze. And I know that there are Auburn fans who are going to cope their way in, and you're going to look at the end of the Iron Bowl where you rushed 2 against Jalen Milroe, and he had the touchdown to basically win the game. I don't think it was as time expired, but to win the game. And you're going to point to those. And again, Auburn fans are going to be salty because why wouldn't you be? Your defensive coordinator just left after you just fired your offensive coordinator. But this is just a massive addition. And I know that I've seen people on Twitter go, oh, he used to coach at Louisiana and Billy let him go. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Ron Roberts left Louisiana because Dave Aranda, arguably his biggest disciple yet, or the biggest member of his coaching tree, the biggest branch, we'll say, got the head coaching job at Baylor and brought him in to run the defense because they run such similar styles, obviously, as tends to be the case when you have someone who is your mentor, basically. But this is also an important part, I think, to note that this is another instance of Florida adding a West Coast defensive coordinator, which I know for some people that's a downside of not being a Florida ties person. He does have Southern ties with Louisiana, Baylor experience, Southeastern Louisiana. And I believe Delta State is in the South as well, Southeast specifically as well. But he's also from California originally. This is just a massive ad. I cannot express how excited I am about this. I told the subtext group today. I sent the first message and I was just like, I am a fan of this edition. And then I sent another message saying who it was going to be, and just like, I'm all the way in. Like, I know rumors came out earlier today that the tweets started coming out about, Ron Roberts' interest with Florida, and that he wasn't really getting along with Hugh Freeze. And then now he's here, and I can't tell you. I know it might sound a little redundant. I can't tell you how freaking excited I am about this hire. We're going to get to the chat in a minute. I do have to first hit you guys up with a quick word from FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapped up completely. The national championship for college football is in about an hour and 15 minutes, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. It doesn't have to win. It's just place a $5 bet, get 150 in bonus bets guaranteed. The app's incredibly easy to use, whether you're doing the boosts, which are basically free money at this point, whether you're just creating your own parlays, which is what I tend to do. But visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. And remember that FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. This bonus episode of Locked On Gators is also brought to you by Jase Medical. We spend a lot of time talking, you and I. We get fired up on wins, losses, who starts, who sits, who's your linebacker coach, who's not. I'm pumped. All right. Today, our chat's going to be a little bit more personal here, because whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, which we just had a snowstorm here, expecting a flood as well, limited by yet another supply shortage, guess what, buddy? You're covered. Thanks to our partners at Jase Medical. Life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications can be ordered in a 1-year supply. 1-year supply. Go online right now at jasemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off your purchase. We're going to wrap up this live stream in a few minutes here, talking about Ron Roberts. Again, I'm freaking stoked for it. Harrison, what's up? I saw you even typing before I said, let me get a chomp in the chat, baby. So thank you. We got a few chomps. We need more chomps. I'm just saying, we need more chomps. Chris Robinson said, is this good? I don't know him. It's freaking wonderful. You're adding 30 plus years of experience to maybe the youngest defensive staff in the SEC, maybe the youngest defensive staff in the country, and you're adding 30 years of coaching experience to it. It's a fantastic ad, and I love what Ron Roberts brings to the table. Been a huge fan here. Ron Roberts is the architect of the Aranda Austin Armstrong defensive scheme. Yeah. Yes, Harrison. Thank you. I'm glad you've been here, because yes, I've been talking about Ron Roberts for years. And when Auburn hired him, Zach Blackerby, the host of Locked On Auburn, he was like, hey, don't you love this guy? I do. I love him. I thought he was scapegoated at Baylor. Then he went to the SEC, which is obviously better. This is huge. I am incredibly happy. Like, I think this is an insane addition to a team where again, you have one of the youngest defensive coaching staffs in the country, and now you've got Ron Roberts there. I will say about the timing of this, couldn't have did it. Like Hugh Freeze couldn't have pissed off Ron Roberts like a month ago. We could have had, because don't forget, Jamonta Waller left, and a big reason was Ron Roberts as the defensive coordinator and that scheme. I'd be very interested to see if, I don't think this is going to happen, but if I'm Billy, I'm shooting him I'm shooting Jamonta Waller a text right now. I'm like, hey, you up? And yeah, if I'm Billy, I'm shooting Jamonta Waller a text, and I'm like, hey, big head, slide on the Gainesville. We'll still take you if you can get out of the LOI at Auburn. Because again, I think that Ron Roberts was a big reason Jamonta Waller went there. Obviously, I believe that NIL was a big part of it as well. But having Ron Roberts here is huge. And he's listed, I think he's going to get hired as co-defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, and executive assistant to the head coach, or the head coach of the defense, or whatever the hell it is. I genuinely don't care about it. I know it's a multi-dimensional role. I don't want to seem like I'm just repeating it, but I'm so stoked for this hire. I think it's a fantastic hire. I think this is arguably the best hire Billy Napier has made since he got hired as the head coach here. Adding to a defensive staff that's so young, and in 2023, I know that the only returning position coaches are Austin Armstrong, or the only returning on-field coaches there are Austin Armstrong and Mike Peterson. They're incredibly young. You gotta add, like, now you've added that 30 years of experience, and it was so clear during the 2023 season that this coaching staff needed a little bit more of experience, which is making too many mistakes in the same areas. You look at some spots of not making the necessary adjustments, the Arkansas game, the LSU game, and then you add Ron Roberts to that. And let me tell you, I'm not saying that all problems are fixed. I am going to say that Ron Roberts has, throughout his career, done a good job of containing dual threat quarterbacks and making them earn it, and defending the RPO. And I've talked about it before, but with creepers, which are going to become, I believe, now more prominent in this Florida Gators defense, creepers are more so where you look at that replacement blitz where someone drops back. Ron Roberts has said a big reason that he started doing that was because of the evolution of the RPO and the popularity of the RPO, where now you get someone in the lane. You kind of get a tell of what offenses are looking for pre-snap with the RPO. And if you have, let's say, a team that runs a ton of slants, and you can drop back an edge rusher, that's going to screw up the entire RPO. Because now you've got someone in the rushing lane, and you either make the read and you have to tuck it, or you miss the read and now you've got someone in your throwing lane. So that's one of the big reasons that I just love what Ron Roberts does. I love the defensive philosophy that he brought to the table. This is a massive add. And I cannot express enough how important I think this is for the growth of this team. Billy Napier knows your back is against the wall. Your seat is hot. You need to nail these additions. And I think that adding Gerald Chapman, who I've told you, I reached out to someone that I know that works for Tulane, as in is on Tulane's staff. And when I reached out about Gerald Chapman, the response was, the F off. He's great. Don't touch him. And Florida took him. And Will Harris, the response has been fantastic or the reviews have been fantastic for him. That's great. They're great hires. They're young hires. Now you've added a stabilized presence of Ron Roberts, and we're kind of cooking. We're kind of cooking here. As far as Brian Gardner, I'm gonna end this stream because we've been going 20 minutes. Expected to go about 15. But Brian Gardner just said, "Credit to Armstrong for setting aside his ego and continue to want to learn." Yes. However, we've talked about this a little while ago when there were some departures like Corey Raymond and Sean Spencer. Part of the reason that those departures, the firings happened, was because Austin Armstrong wanted to bring in his guys. And so I'd imagine that when Jay Bateman left to go to Texas A&M, one of the first thoughts had to be, let's go get Ron. So for me, I think that's huge for Florida. Just, again, I can't express enough how much I love it. Tomorrow on Locked On Gators, tomorrow morning, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about what he's bringing to the table, how he's improving this team, how he's improving this roster, how he makes an immediate impact. And I know that people have talked about his recruiting. We'll talk about that a bit as well. But for me, this is just a home run hire for a coaching staff and a program that desperately needed it. If you're not part of the subtext group who got this information earlier in the day, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGators, or the links in the description below. It's 2 weeks free, $5 a month. After that, you get information like this. You're going to get exclusive videos that I'm going to make about this defense, and I love it. But thank you all so much. 232 live viewers at once, I think, is the most we've ever had in a live stream. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, review, do whatever it is you want to do. But thanks for making Locked On Gators your first or second listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators, talk this Ron Roberts hire. It's sick. I love it. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And as always, I'll see you all next time.